So I know I gave everybody an easy question. And there's much more to say, so I apologize. We could have just actually skipped the sermon and let you all do the sermon together. But I think when we see the quote, when we hear the quote, the only thing for sure is that you are here, you are alive, and the world is full of wonders. These words from Spinoza, for me, say it all. And when we think about the problem of God, which was one of my courses in seminary, I thought it was an interesting topic. Perhaps as Unitarian Universalists, we actually are called to an important message that we provide to the world. It is distinct, and it's often not heard. People often spend too much time asking why and how we got here instead of actually living our best lives while we're here. They spend much time chastising others for not following a particular God instead of loving the basic concepts of the golden rule, to love yourself and others, period. No comma, no disclosures, no rules, no dogmas, no exclusions, no judgments. Love yourself and others. Now, here are some things that probably you will not normally hear in a Unitarian Universalist church. How could God let that happen? It is the will of God. It is all of God's plan. God is good all the time. So we might not ask how God could let that happen or if it's part of God's plan, because our spirituality is guided by the rational mind. We understand the natural world we live in and natural consequences. We also adhere to the concept of free agency and its consequences. So we know that there are consequences to our actions, but that we're not being manipulated by a divine puppeteer. We are living life on an imperfect but miraculous planet. So when things happen, such as cancer or an accident, we don't react by saying that God or the universe is good or bad. We understand that in Judeo-Christian traditions, like all religion traditions, these traditions were dealing with existential questions and trying to answer them the best they could. Often, the culture, politics, and powerful people got in the way and took precedence over logical thoughts. Myths became facts, and those that didn't believe those orthodoxies were persecuted and killed. And in many countries today, that still is the case. When we are told that we are created in God's image, what is the image that you see in your head? Often we're told that God is all-powerful, all-knowing, to be feared. We sometimes hear of a jealous God or one that judges good and evil with eternal consequences. And often humans take those attributes and become judgmental, become jealous, and think they're all-powerful, or in my case, all-knowing. We also hear of a God that is a God of unconditional love, of mercy, of justice, who is partial to the vulnerable and the poor, and critical of the rich and the self-righteous. Anyone who has attended Alcohol Anonymous knows that God is a different God from the one that we grew up in. That God does care and understands our inability to do it all, particularly when it comes to addictions. And we know that a higher power is expressed in that person as they express that. But often the higher power is the person next to them, their sponsor, their spouse, their friend. And listening to them gives them insight into the universe and divine, and often saves their lives. So from a Unitarian Universalist perspective, we offer a different perspective than others. We pay attention to the conflicting images between universal love, creation, inclusion, mercy, and compassion. And we see how many orthodox beliefs or major religions judge, exclude, damn for all eternity, all in the name of God. So it's not surprising that it makes us feel uneasy. We define God in human traits, and then we say God defines us in God's image. So basically, we gave it and we took it back. Last week, Carlo Spaticelli expressed his own spirituality as an atheist mystic. Now, you might think that only in a Unitarian Universalist church can you be an atheist mystic and not thrown out the door. But actually, there are prominent atheists or agnostic mystics in all major religions: Catholics, Protestants, Buddhists, Muslims, Hindus. They often are alienated from their own religious authorities, but they moved away from a traditional personal type of deity, and they came to understand the transcendent in a new mystical way. Now, we cannot not recognize the harm that people have done in God's name. In Poland, the Catholic Jesuit order eliminated all the Unitarians, killing most of them or expelling them from the country. The Guarani in South Africa were enslaved due to an encyclical by the Pope between the Spanish and the Portuguese. The Dutch Reformed Church defended apartheid in South Africa for decades. Southern Baptists and Southern Methodists used the Bible to defend slavery. Catholics and Lutherans in Germany and Poland and elsewhere went to work in the death camps every day, killing millions of Jews and others and attending church on Sundays. This is our reality. And I do not take away from that reality. It's important to know. That is why our message is so important. But I would say during the World Wars and during any war, the German soldiers, the French soldiers, the Russian soldiers, the British, the American soldiers, they all had one thing in common. They all prayed to the same God. The problem of God for Universalists and Unitarians is that it goes against our principle of humanity in our world, the Orthodox version of God. We believe in mercy, love, kindness, and openness, and we are cognizant of a bigger picture, which, whether it be a force of nature, a transcendent, or the universe, is something we relate to. We may call it differently. A pure atheist might criticize us for playing semantics, for believing that the bigger picture of the divine exists. And they might be right, but they might be missing the point that we believe in a bigger picture. And if we don't recognize it, however it is difficult for us to define or understand, we sink into narcissism and human centricity. So I remind myself that we are created in this world with a space to be born, and it is up to our own attitudes and actions to be responsible for ourselves. If we have a near miss in an accident, piece of luck comes our way, if our heart feels with the warmth of love, if we express gratitude, it is a gift that the universe or God, or however we define that, has given to us. The universe created this physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual space for us to happen. So, although I moved away from a personal God of Orthodox faiths, I believe that Spinoza's God is something I relate to. I believe in truths that surpass facts and understanding, and that our principle of a free and responsible search for truth and meaning is paramount. The fact that we are here in Jacksonville in the sanctuary today, all of us, is a testimony that a strong, faith-filled culture can survive, even thrive, in a dominant, orthodox, God-centered culture. Now, here's a secret, and it's not a secret at all to us as Unitarian Universalists. I think that we have an incredibly important message to say to the world. As the priest reminded Josh Johnson in the video, it is how we live our life. And whether we believe in a God or gods or life after death or reincarnation should have no difference whatsoever on how we live a virtuous life, how we love, how we forgive, how we show mercy and compassion, how we are willing to work for justice, confront others who are trying to take away our freedom and democracy. All of these attributes are not God-given. They are God or universe invitations, but they are earned and fought for every day by us. As Unitarian Universalists, we have this important message to say to the world. No matter what your belief in God or how you define God, everybody has this responsibility to live a life of loving, caring, justice, and compassion. No God is going to save us from our misdeeds or rescue us from tragedy, nor is going to judge us. The universe creates the space for forgiveness, creates opportunities for us to support one another, and I think possibly most important and sometimes difficult for us because we like people to tell us what to do. It's easier. And most people on a Sunday go to a church or a house of worship on a weekend that tells them what to do and how to behave and how to think and how to act. We have a sense of self-determination to choose our own life pathway, knowing that we will all die, as we say in our covenant affirmation, we will all die and connect with the divine as we know the divine to be. That's powerful. This is a tough message for the mainstream, but it may actually be the ultimate message needed. And if one person out of 1,000 believes this message, it's a message that needs to be spoken. And in fact, it may actually save humankind from self-destruction. And as Mary mentioned about nature, may actually save our planet. And finally, give us the freedom and responsibility we were created to have on this earth. Now, with all this said, if I happen to get struck by lightning after this sermon, just to be clear, our insurance policy is agnostic. It specifically states that it does not cover acts of God or nature. But in this case, I want to be clear. It was not an act of God, it was an act of nature. Thank you.